What's up, everyone? You know what time it is. It's time to recap Episode 8 of The Amazing Race Canada. To kick off the 8th leg of the race, Jody and Corey are the first team to depart at 11:39 a.m. and find out they are on their way to Halifax, Nova Scotia. The last team to depart is Vanessa and Selena, but they were only 20 minutes behind. All teams are on the same flight from Iqaluit to Ottawa and then heading to Halifax. I think we know what this means. Some teams will be looking for an earlier flight into Halifax. Jet and Dave and Vanessa and Selena were talking strategy when they arrived at the Ottawa airport. They were trying to decide who to U-turn. Meanwhile, Corey and Jody decide to check in one of their bags in the lockers at the airport for a few weeks, since Jody is from Ottawa. Good strategy there. Again, something that's different compared to the American version, for obvious reasons. The Canadian version is strictly in Canada. But it's also good timing, as there are only 4 teams left. So it's not like Jody will be without his belongings for a long period of time. Surprisingly, teams didn't try to find an earlier flight. Or at least they didn't show us. So maybe they did try, but there was no point in showing us because there were no flights. Not sure. Teams now head to Halifax, where they will find a vehicle for this leg. Inside the car, they will find their clue, which will prompt them to put in a USB stick into the dashboard so they can see a video from John Montgomery. In the video, John Montgomery tells teams to head to Pier 21. The funny thing is, these vehicles have a manual transmission, and while all the teams are ripping around corners in them, Selena and Vanessa actually don't know how to drive stick. Here come the waterworks. Vanessa and Selena get to a red light, and as hard as they try to keep the car rolling, they can't, and the car stalls. Cars are honking, Vanessa is saying come on, and Selena is letting everyone know how dangerous this situation is. The drama. Teams arrive at Pier 21, where they find out the building is closed and won't be open until 6 a.m. In the morning, teams head to the immigration desk, where they are handed a passport, and they need to get it stamped 7 different times to get their next clue. Teams now drive to Mahone Bay. The Tims were following Jody and Corey, and Jody didn't really like it, so he decided to make a detour to get the Tims off their tails, and it worked. Except Jody and Corey were now going in the opposite direction, and they need to get back on the main road. Could you imagine if that could be the difference maker? Once teams arrives at Mahone Bay, they get a roadblock. Teams will search for a scarecrow that is pictured on their BlackBerry Z10. Once they find the scarecrow, they need to bring it back to a gazebo and then build an identical scarecrow. Jody and Corey finish the task first and now head to the Fisheries Museum of the Atlantic. At this museum, they get a detour: surf or turf. In surf, teams get on a boat where they haul up 6 lobster traps, collect the lobsters, wrap them up, and deliver it to a restaurant. In turf, teams head to an inn where they sample and study 12 different types of sausages, and they also have to memorize their German names. Once they identify each sausage, they will receive their next clue. I'm starting to get worried at this point because I'm cheering for Jet and Dave, and Jet is still dressing up the scarecrow, and it seems like he's almost giving up. I mean, come on, that's not the Jet we've been watching. But the good news is, he did it, and they were still ahead of Vanessa and Selena. At the fisheries, I thought it was interesting when Jody and Corey were getting their outfits for the surf task, that the Tims stuff was there, but no one else's. But then the Tims did turf. I guess everyone else's stuff was in a different area? I don't know, did you catch that? So the girls decided to do turf. The Tims nailed turf on their first try, and I must say, it was rather impressive. Jet and Dave are some funny guys. They were having a blast with the lobster traps, and the best part is, they usually end up doing well while having fun, and all these other teams are stressing out. Teams now head to St. John's Anglican Church, and here comes the double U-turn. Jody and Corey are the first team to get to the church. Wow! The Tims were already in the area of the church, but it seemed like they were at some sort of church office, and not the actual church, which was literally a few feet from there. But Tim Jr. went to go grab the clue at the car to reread it. But Jody and Corey got inside the church and decided not to U-turn anyone. They want to run a clean race. I mean, kudos to them. But I'm almost 100% sure if the Tims were there first, they would have U-turned Jody and Corey. The Tims got to the U-turn and decided that Jet and Dave and the sisters were not a threat. So they also decided not to U-turn anyone. Teams now head to the harbor and have to spot the Blue Nose 2, which will be the 8th pit stop of the race. Jody and Corey arrive at the pit stop for their second straight first place finish, and they both win tickets to anywhere Air Canada flies in South America. But wait! The race is still on! John Montgomery hands Jody and Corey the next clue, where they now have to head to St. John's, Newfoundland. Vanessa and Selena actually completed the turf challenge, but not without some bumps in the road. When Vanessa and Selena got to the pit stop, they thought they were out, but when John Montgomery told them the race isn't over for them, they had that kind of blank look, like, what do you mean? Until Montgomery said, "You're still in the race." Hooray! On next week's episode of The Amazing Race, teams head to Newfoundland and Labrador, and teams battle for a spot in the finale. It's gonna be a doozy. Make sure you head back here next week to watch my episode 9 recap. Until next time,